Lars, what do you do?
Well, I'm a Director International at ECO, Association of the Internet Industry. And with my second hat on, I'm co-coordinator of the outreach group at the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. And this is the hat that I'm wearing on stage right now.
Is that a hat like that one?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So I'm excited. I'm happy to hear what you're offering in your next presentation. You brought some assistance, so it's all yours. Have fun.
Thank you very much.
Have fun.
So, what I would like to talk to you today is, can a routine bug fix increase revenue potential and bring millions of people online? So, what it's all about. So, when we're talking about universal acceptance. So, this is universal acceptance in a nutshell. People from around the world can effectively use any domain name and any email address and any application for the personal and business use. So why is this an issue at all? Why do we have to talk about this? Well, the background is that the internet has evolved over the last years and decades. So when you take a look at this slide, you see that in 2006, we had just two handful of generic domain names out there, TLDs. We had a number of country code TLDs. But 10 years later, this whole thing exploded. So we see that we've got now thousands of new gTLDs out there, and also the number of country code top-level domains grew, but not because there are so many more countries out there, but because nowadays you also have TLDs that are based not on ASCII anymore. So as you can see as a few examples, you've got Chinese, you've got Korean, you've got Arabic, you've got everything out there now also on the top-level domain. And of course, you can also use those scripts for the domain names, and with that also for email addresses. So, what has changed? We've got more top-level domains out there nowadays. And they are not only 2 or 3 characters in length, they are longer. So you've got dot photography, you've got doc technology, all those new TLDs that you can use nowadays. And they are not longer based on ASCII anymore. So you have to implement UTF-8 to be ready for this new world of domain names and email addresses. And this list of TLDs is not static. It's constantly growing. Every day there will be new TLDs out there that you have to keep in mind when you're producing software and systems where those addresses are used, stored, and also processed. And this is also what you have to keep in mind when you use email and when you've got email in your software and deal with email addresses. And you've got a number of examples on the right-hand side of the slide. And now we've got this new fancy technology, and of course you can use it and try to use it and send emails to other people that use these new domain names and email addresses. And when you try to do this, you may encounter this. And this is what we are now talking about. So we've got this new world of domain names out there, but it doesn't work properly. So if you want to use them, end users will be bothered with things like that. In the ICANN environment, where the domain name industry is gathering, people gathered and said, okay, we have to fix this. And so in 2015, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group was founded. And it's a bunch of people where I'm a member of, and also Christian Dawson from I2 Coalition, who's around here. And together with him, I'm running the outreach working group in this Universal Acceptance Steering Group. We gathered together for 2015 and said we have to solve this as an industry and move forward. And so we gathered around 120 plus organizations, representatives from governments, NGOs, to say, okay, we've got to work on this issue. And currently, there are a number of really big names in there who are heavily involved. So when you take a look who's chair and vice chairs of this Universal Acceptance Steering Group, you will see that we've got a new chair from India, Dr. Ajay Data, who's one of the leading hats when it comes to implement EAI in the email space. One of the vice chairs is Max von Zorek from Microsoft, and also Verisign is on the board. So you see, all those organizations and companies are really working hard to get this done. And also associations like mine, like ECHO, I2 Coalition that I already mentioned, they are all in. What are we doing? So we review popular websites. So 1 year ago, we did a review of the top 1,000 websites according to the Alexa ranking, and we found out some interesting insights. So when we did this checkup, looking for email forms where you can register for a newsletter or create a user account, we had a set of email addresses that we used to check the UA readiness of those websites. So when you have an email address that's based on a short new GTLD, 90% of all forms accepted this email address nowadays. When you've got a longer new GTLD like .technology, then it already drops to 87%. And this goes down when you have a TLD involved that's not ASCII-based anymore, then and you go down to Arabic addresses that are also written from right to left. The acceptance drops down to 8%. And this is something that we have to work on, because the next billion users that will go online will not come from North America or from Europe. They come from regions in the world where most scripts are not based on ASCII. And those people would like to use the internet in their native language. And this is the reason why we are working on to implement everything that's needed to enable those people to use the internet in their native language, to write emails in their native language. And it's not about magic, it's just implementing current standards that are out there. So we review the websites, we reviewed frameworks, browsers, we checked all the popular browsers out there. Guess which browser had a 0% failure rate on universal acceptance? Any guess? It was the everybody loving Internet Explorer. So that was the only one that had a 0 failure rate. And we build use cases. We've got a website, UASG.tech. You will see it on the last slide of this presentation. And there we have a documentation, we have use cases, we've got a CIO guideline where you can have a look at how you check your systems on UA readiness. We have workshops, and we have panel discussions, presentations, do outreach, and we constantly work on building our database. So who are we talking to? We talk to the doers, like developers and system architects. We talk to CIOs, senior IT management, and influencers, also on the governmental level. So our goal is that when governments are buying new software and systems, that they take a look at, okay, we want to be UA ready to have a safe system for the future. So here at CloudFest, there was this hackathon at the last weekend, and one team worked on universal acceptance. And now please give a hand to Maike Jung, Steffen Auditor, and Stefan Luko from CMS Garden, who worked with several others on universal acceptance in the context of content management systems from the open source world. So welcome on stage, please give them a hand.
Thank you for inviting us.
Stefan, can you tell us, what did you do exactly at the hackathon to work on universal acceptance in the CMS world?
Exactly?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Then,
Or give us an idea.
First thing, I thought I was a co-host or co-maintainer, but then I was introduced as the captain for universal acceptance. And that was a little problem for me, because I never heard before about universal access. So acceptance. It's a difficult name also, and then I recognized that I have to learn a lot of long, deep diving history about standards and policies. And the first moment I thought, there's no problem. It's so easy. What is problem writing emails? And every 10 minutes I had a next problem identified. So we tried to find the problems with the open source content management systems, the most active. We tried it with 10 different open source CMS, and the bad point is 0 0% of the open source content management systems are UA ready. 0%.
But can you give us an insight? What did you do to get the work started to overcome this issue?
Well, actually, we had a look at the sample data you provided. For example, the email addresses. We tried to create user accounts with standard setups of the open source content management systems. And we failed with every of them. That has different reasons. Actually, they are all well built on the current standards, but the current standards for email addresses do not allow UDF8 in the local part of the email address. So they all fail to accept email addresses that are, for example, that contain letters from the UDF8 space in the local part. But that's not only in the content management systems, but also for the HTML5 client-side validation, which is based on a standard from the W3C, which is also based on the same standard that defines the email addresses and also does not allow UDF8 in the local part. So we identified multiple problems on multiple layers of our applications. Once in the client side, the browsers, the browser vendors that have to add the possibility. But also the client, the server-side validation has to change to improve to allow that.
So it seems to be that it's, to challenge the title of this presentation, it's not a simple bug fix from your perspective.
Well, we have some points to improve on. Would you like?
Well, actually, it's just many different simple bug fixes. And what is required is a combined effort. Mm-hmm. We had a hard time to find out who should start. What would be the safest point to start? Would it be the mail servers that just need to get like the support on? Would it be the browsers to allow through email addresses based on the field type email? Would that be a safe thing when you cannot even get Thunderbird to send an email to such an address? So what we found is many little things like add the open dot for the Chinese addresses to, for example, the Symfony loose validation standard. But would that be the first thing to do? So we have a pretty long list of follow-up, and we would like to follow up on those topics and do our part for the CMS validation. And we would love to talk to, or to use our contacts to other communities, like the PHP community, and to be like part of a big project where everybody does a little bug fixing.
Okay.
So in short, let me say it clear and loud. No, it's not only a bug fix. At that specific topic, the internet is broken.
Okay, given that, and now broaden the picture from the CMS community to the whole industry that's here in the room, which takeaways that you learned over the weekend can you give to the audience here and everybody here in the room that they can take home to start and get the tipping point and leverage the process to get UA ready?
The internet is broken. If you want making it right, then go to their website and download the quick start guides. It's not so complicated, but it's so many little points you have to switch on or off, or talk to other people, to other communities, and build awareness. That's the most important thing, I think.
Enable UTF-8 support on the mail service forward.
So did I get the message right? The CMS Garden will continue its work on universal acceptance to get the open source CMS environment.
We have to because it's broken.
it's not only a question of raising or widening markets. It's also a question of diversity. And we, as open source communities, have a lot of experience how important it is to include many different cultures, many different views on our products. So it's not a question of how complicated it is and if would I would like to do it or not. It's we cannot stop that development, and we should be first in line.
To be inclusive, we've got a roaming mic in the room. If there are any questions, please feel free to raise your hand.
Hi. It sounded like the standard's already not outdated, basically, is it? From the W3C, if the standard is not, the specification is not even done, how can you expect libraries to follow this?
That's a good question, yes. Well, actually, the standard is done and it's valid since years, but I never thought of having UNIF-8 in the local part of email addresses, for example. So that has to be amended. We have to either change the current RFC that defines email addresses, or we have to do an add-on, which already exists, but isn't a current standard at the moment. It's in the proposed state.
Any other questions in the room? So if not, what can you do? So when you visit our website, UASG.tech, you've got the possibility to take a first check if your email address is supporting EAI or not. You can have a look at our documentation. So there's also a blueprint for CIOs with the checklist that I already mentioned. You also can take a look at the quick guide that Steffen already mentioned. And there is also an issue logging tool. So if you have an EAI email address or an email address with a new GTLD and it's not working somewhere, so if you're trying to register or to create a user account with this email address and you fail, and you don't get proper support from the website and the company that's behind it, on the USG.tech website, you've got an issue logging tool where you can report this incident, and the global support of ICANN will take care of this and try to solve this. And of course, you can also be part of the USG community. So you can register to the mailing list, follow all the work that we are doing. You can also see everything that's documented there, including also our financial reports. So we are fully transparent on what we are doing, where the money is coming from and where it's going to. And the more people are working on this topic, the more likely and in the shorter period of time we can get this done. And if you didn't understood it correctly, this is how it's spelled, USG.tech. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for everybody here on stage joining me. And I hope that we got the message through. And yeah, have a nice day and also a successful day here at CloudFest. Thank you very much.